Looks like we're having some color adjustment. All right, folks, we're going to get this kicked off in just a minute. I want to make sure that I've got everything, the lighting fixed. All right. Looks like we got at least one person watching. So today we're going to be talking about emergency Section 8. They got a new program just rolled out, and it's not technically fully rolled out, these emergency vouchers. So before we kick off the video, let me tell you, in the comment section, you can see my web address, and you can see that I have an email there. Normally, I make people contact me through the website, but we have a new booking software right now, and so we're having problems, and we should have that fixed. So you won't be able to technically book an appointment with me or whatever until probably tomorrow, but you can bookmark the website, and if you have additional questions, you can just send me an email in the live chat links that I've set up. So with that being said, let's get started with this video. So most of you are unaware, I've just got a hard copy of the emergency voucher system for 2021. And so it's 59 pages. I'm reading through it. They have not technically rolled it out yet, but it's going to allow certain people with certain criteria to be able to get a housing choice voucher. And a unique part of it is going to be the fact that the continuum of care that I preach very widely on my channel, probably up to 200 videos, I've talked to you about continuum of care, and I'm also talked about dealing with housing through the housing authority. So two separate entities there, nonprofits on one side, and of course the county, which controls the housing authority. So we got 59 pages on that, and as I said, you know, there's special preferences, and I'm gonna get into that in just a second. And I'm just got a few people hopped in. Jungle Beats, thanks for joining us. Miss Spirit, thank you for joining us. So let me pull it up real quick. I wish I could show you my screen, but unfortunately I don't have that technology set up just yet. So emergency housing vouchers. As you know, most of you have known me to preach that those things are mythical unicorns. There are rarely you ever get them. 15% of essentially housing authorities. A housing authority will keep about 50% of its reserve, essentially to keep vouchers in a reserve or as an emergency to certain or particular clients that meet special preferences. But because of the COVID funding, they've now done a new round and a new program called EHV. And so I've got, like I said, the hard copy of that 59 pages, and I'm going to go a little bit of what's in that. So if you are homeless, at risk of homelessness, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating DV, sexual DV, stalking, and other human issues. And I'm avoiding certain words because of YouTube will try to lower the ranking of the video if I say those words, but I think you get my point. Or if you're going to be recently homeless, or if you need rental assistance, and so many other issues. This can be issued by both the housing authority, or it can be issued by the continuum of care. It don't have a timeline on this. It can be a couple of weeks, couple of months, and it will be select cities as well. So right now, I'm just kind of getting y'all excited about it. I intend on doing the seminar part, and I've already got the operational manual. So I'm going to know exactly how to work that particular system for my clients. Another thing I'm going to tell you guys, the reason I'm often looking off to the left is I'm also monitoring the comments on the side and also trying to talk to the camera. So let's see, we've got a few more people that hopped in here. Mix Alexander, enjoy your channel. Oh, thank you very much, Mix Alexander. Gale Resources, finally, you decided to show up. You know what? I was wondering if you were going to come and hit us up. Miss Haynes, thanks for joining us. And looks like we got one comment held for review. Please do not use obscenities and other things in the live chat, and please don't mention things that would be intrusive to the algorithm. They will block you and ban you, and it has nothing to do with me. They just block certain words, so just keep it simple. Try not to link crazy things in there, and they won't. YouTube won't block you. All right. Beyond that. So they already are telling us what elements are there, and I'm going to kind of exploit that and see specifically what could be said on an application to get you guys through this process. My understanding is they're doing a minimum of 25 vouchers per COC, which is a direct referral. Here's where the jeopardy and the peril works out. You got people that are working in there making Taco Bell wages, okay, at COCs. So do you think these people are not going to try to give these vouchers to their friends, their family, and political constituents? You know how that game works, right? So we're going to have to really leverage those people hard and then question what they're doing with those vouchers. There needs to be some oversight. I can tell you that right now. Also, with the housing authority, same thing. If you don't think people that work in those offices aren't giving those things up in their own neighborhood, you're crazy. I see this play out so many times. I mean, there's over 100 lawsuits around the country. That's where HUD is actually suing the housing authorities for doing crazy things. I know there's a fellow in Houston, brand new hire, and he was selling vouchers for $5,000. So if you think you're not fooling with a rigged system, you're out your mind. So that's what I do. I unrig this stuff. I read legislation, I read federal code, and I do it very well. Take a look at a few comments. Absolutely in need of help. Homelessness and combat widow. Okay, so you're a veteran's wife, and that does play a part in some ways for your scoring. However, it does will need a combination of different effects to be able to help you in that arena. Also, guys, let me know if the audio is going good here. I know we had some problem last time where the sound was garbage. I think we've got that corrected. So now moving on from that, guys, I'm going to make a whole video in the next few days, and it's going to cover EVH, and I'm going to also publicly publish their manual. Okay, that's probably going to piss them all off. I don't think they want y'all to have this. They certainly don't want you to understand how it works. Whenever you have the keys of the kingdom, the key holders tend to be the people that don't want you. They prefer playing God with people's lives. So, there's a new God in town. It's called Section 8 Consulting. I'll level that playing field and, make it easier and better for you guys to get housing. So, just in case you just hopped in the channel, like I said, we have the web link for my website, section8consulting.com. You can also email me at section8consulting at Gmail. The word, the number 8 is spelled out, and you can find that in the pinned comment up there. Beyond that, we're also getting an additional level of funding through many states for additional vouchers and funding. So we know that Mr. Joe Biden, or President Joe Biden, has issued almost over $1 trillion in housing funds, and we're also looking at the universal housing vouchers I'd mentioned last in 2020. That is where almost anybody would have an entitlement that is low income with other smaller issues to be able to get housing. And I think when that comes out, I'm going to be posting a lot of videos to help you guys navigate that system. So right now I'm going to take a look at these comments, and I'm also going to try to pop out this window so I don't have to keep looking over. All right, I got the pop out working now, so now I can see it better. All right, so I've got a few questions here. Alexander, what is the equal housing opportunity anyways? Can anyone live anywhere? Well, when we talk about equality, we talk about fairness and all that. I don't know that I've ever associated that concept with Section 8. Has it ever really been fair? My job wouldn't exist if people did things nice. If they did it the right way, if they did it the legal way. My job wouldn't exist if people probably had a higher sense of morals, but that's definitely not Section 8. So I'm going to go on then to Spirit there. Another comment. I knew a girl whose aunt worked for Section 8. She had several of the family members hooked up. Oh yeah, the hookup's good, isn't it? You know what? Most, you older guys and gentlemen and ladies that are older probably remembered, that back in the days when you used to be able to hang out, at the diner. It's a lot like that at these housing authorities. It's a bunch of men and women in there just hanging out and having snacks and barely doing their job, barely earning that a paycheck. And then, when Bob rolls into the building, he works in maintenance, and he's, I've got a granddaughter, I'd like to get a voucher, and, they get processed. The rest of you guys wait 20 years. It's just ridiculous, the lack of oversight in this. But you know what? When you're dealing with waiting lists and lotteries, if you know the rules of which you play by, I may not have the hookup as in working at a housing authority, but I certainly understand the algorithm that would determine where you would be placed on that waiting list. And there are a lot of things that can be said on those applications to really make your case compelling. You're talking about shaving 15 years off of weight. There are lots of ways to play the game better than the people that made it. I've spent 18 years trying to figure that out, and I do that exceptionally well. Look, guys, if I wasn't doing what I say I could do, first of all, I wouldn't have a $25,000 website, in the making. And then I wouldn't be doing this for 6 years on YouTube. My channel would be riddled with he's a scam, he's a fraud, and I would charge a hell of a lot more than $45 for a half hour of my time. That's just the reality. I know what I'm doing. I post everybody's vouchers on my community page. And so the proof is in the pudding, man. You see what happens when you deal with somebody that understands that. Another thing, I deal with a lot of housing authority employees that visit my channel, sometimes for nefarious reasons because they don't like me. And I have a bunch of housing authority employees all around the country that hate their job, and they often apprise me of their manuals, their data. They give me plenty of information. Some housing authority employees give me enough to pretty much wreck the building when it came to vouchers. And so I have information being fed to me from a bunch of housing authorities around the country and social workers, counselors. So, and then in addition to that, I probably have about 60 attorneys that defer to me for legal information. So I'm not an attorney and I don't give out legal advice, but you know what? The attorney is not going to go back to school for another 18 years to figure out how the hell Section 8 works. That just tells you. If you read federal regulation, you'll see that, man, there's thousands of pages of subsections. And so when I want to play the game against the housing authority, and when I want to play with them, I'm able to quote that federal regulation, and then that's the end of their talk. It shuts their lips because you're not going to countermand the federal, law. If it says that in federal regulation, then whatever shit they dream up or want to say is not applicable. And they know they've been busted. The only thing they can do on a phone line is to simply sit there quietly and then shut up because they know at that point they've been beat. They've been defeated. That's the point of all this. But let's get back to the emergency housing choice vouchers. So we're going to be working on this EBH. I'm going to dissect that 59-page manual, and we're going to figure out exactly how to get my clients in there. Anybody that deals with this channel, we're going to see about getting these and the best route to do that. Also, another thing I want to tell you is if you've got mental health issues and you're dealing with the county, so county health, mental health, and all that, it must be state-owned or county-owned. Sometimes the director of those programs at mental health and also social services, they do have the ability to slide an application out of their drawer and they can backdoor or make a phone call and sometimes get you housing choice vouchers if they like you. And what's so fun about this is rather than having a particular reason why they want to do it, it's often just based on human judgment, whether or not they even like you. Are they tired of hearing your story while you're counseling with them? Do they like you personally? It really is a lot of this comes down to likes and favoritism and crazy shit rather than the actual intended purpose. But I'm letting you know, if you've got a good rapport with county mental health, social services, and you've never had a falling out with those guys, sometimes they can make direct referrals. If you've got friends and family that work for the federal government, including places like if they're, working for HUD, obviously, the feds, Homeland Security, I've heard those guys have been able to push through vouchers. And in addition to that, they just changed a policy that would allow people fleeing violence in other countries to now get a voucher. So on a technicality, if you are here and under consideration of fleeing another country, so there needs to be a distinction between being illegal, arriving illegal, or arriving here legally, and then you're going through the process of trying to get help in the United States. If you're here in the principle of doing it the right way, then we can get you a housing choice voucher. If you tried to just come from Mexico or Canada without going through the proper or necessary steps, then it is unlikely we'd be able to get you a voucher. Now, with that being said, if you meet some of these criteria of homelessness, close to homelessness, fleeing DV or domestic issues, stalking and other trafficking issues, or you're at risk of instability, or your home doesn't have plumbing and other issues like that, then we would likely be able to compel them to at least consider your case as an emergency case. But I got to tell you, there are millions of people that need a home, and everybody's got an interesting story. So it's not really based on that. It's based on whether or not you meet each bullet point. And I've often told you folks, look, if they give you a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, does person meet A, B, C, and D? If you don't meet it, then you damn well better make sure that your life starts if you don't have the problem, then you create it. Okay? Simple as that. If the rule is there, then meet the rule. If you don't have the problem, then damn well just create it. That way you'll be able to score with. It's called reverse engineering. You're literally meeting the problem by creating the problem. Sounds a bit tacky and interesting, but I'm going to tell you it's highly effective. Other things that can be deployed around states with housing authorities, a lot of them are small, understaffed, underpaid, and people really just don't care. When I deal with houses, what I do is I like to audit a lot of them through public requests, state requests, federal requests, then compel them to tell me who's on the waiting list. Once I'm able to figure out how many seniors and other people on those lists, then if I know they have a certain weakness or a loophole, I'll test them, and then I'm able to send clients to that particular county because I know the waiting list has 8 people. I defeated a housing authority in California because they did a grandiose job of hiding their website. They didn't want anybody low income entering the county. So they had a housing authority, but they didn't want to run. They didn't want anybody to come. So I was able to figure out who they were, where they were hiding, and the fact that their website included no keywords that anybody would naturally look for, like housing authority or low income. So they did a fantastic job of hiding on the internet. Once I found them, one lady got a voucher in 6 days. It was just flat out that quick, and then a few more. And then, of course, they were pretty much pleading with me to please stop. So that's when I stepped on the gas. Let's send everybody down there. People have got to learn, that you cannot treat humans that way. You only live once, and you have to treat people reasonably. A lot of the shit that people are doing unethically, when you take your last breath and you look back at your life, you're going to regret these decisions severely. That you didn't even have time to treat the next human fairly or reasonably. I wouldn't even have this YouTube channel or this Section 8 consulting if I didn't care about people, man. It really does come down to that. If I didn't give a damn, then I wouldn't have a way to contact. I would just have a website to charge people, and we would just do these video programs, bunch of bullshit people like to sell. You know what I'm talking about. Pay $400 and you can watch my video series that leads to nowhere. Or you can get my magic Section 8 book. I published a Section 8 bullshit book full of tips and tricks from a rodeo clown, and then that's going to fix you. Look, guys, don't fall into traps like that. If people can't get on the phone and they can't talk, if you can't hear their voice, then you know they're full of it. Buying all these garbage programs and books is not going to get you anywhere fast. Number two, every housing authority in every county in every state has different policies, different procedures. So unless you're like somebody like myself that spent 20 years dealing with all of them individually, taking advice from one person that knows their housing authority in their little tiny county and taking advice from that, unless you're planning on moving that specific county, the advice they're giving you is absolutely worthless. Okay. So I keep a Rolodex, 5,300 and counting, housing authorities, PHAs, COCs. That's a lot, isn't it? I keep a database of all their manuals and operationals. And then, of course, you have Nanny McKay. And so if Nanny McKay is watching, these are the people that are subcontractors for the United States government HUD. These are the guys that create the manuals and the convolution. They're subcontractors. These are the people when the legislator's too bored to write out what they want to do with HUD funding, they hire subcontractors. These subcontractors write out all the policies and procedures. They make these neat little videos, and then they hand it over to housing authority employees. And then they pay about $1,000 for each little certificate. Like, when you go to McDonald's and you buy a cheeseburger, you get a little magic hat and you get a certificate. It's called being a housing specialist. For about $1,000, in some cases $100 or $1,000, you can become a Section 8 housing specialist. You can also do the same thing by putting a quarter in a bubblegum machine, and you can get your diploma there as well. Okay, those things are worthless. It's a joke. Okay, but just in case y'all are wondering, how do you get all those men from them? And then you read the federal legislation, and then of course you go out and you hunt for these manuals, and you compel them under federal law. That open public look. Anytime you're going to deal with public funding, anytime you deal with federal funding, then I can compel you to give me whatever I want. You're not going to keep that in your broom closet, unfortunately. Moving on, let's take a look at some of these comments. Thank you, friend. Pretty inexpensive for an expert. I could draw, talking about money, people say that all the time. Back in the old days, 14 years, I did it for free. And people ate that up, man. It was like going to a buffet full of shrimp and steak, and so people loved it. Then, I charged, I think the first time it was $15 for 20 minutes. And then I became a scam because it was too low. Y'all were letting me, hey, man, look, for $15, this is going to be a joke. Then I ramped that up to 60, and then it's like, oh my God, how the hell would I ever afford? I'm never going to get from under the bridge if you're charging 60. Okay, look, it's all mentality in your mind. Look, you know what? To be frank with you, 6 to 8 consults a day, sometimes a lot more than that, up to 20. At my best day, I still think a good plumber can make more than me from this channel. No, make no mistake. I deal with landlords that pay me a lot of money. Okay, that's really where the money is. It's not from the console. It's the console. Look, one of the reasons I do charge for consults is because some people like to get drunk or do other things, and they use my consults as a way to talk when they're lonely and drunk and stuff like that. So I figured if I started charging for that, they would stop calling me under the influence of different things. And so it became crazy for a while. But anyways, I'm on a long run with this. I'm sorry. I should be talking about Section 8 and emergency housing voucher. Nobody wants to hear all these lollipop stories. So, Alexander, thank you. Looks like you shot me $1.49. Appreciate that, brother. So look, guys, you know what? If you're a member of the channel, it's just like a gaming channel. Like when you're a teenager and you want to be on YouTube, that allows you to purchase a membership to the channel. That's a way of supporting me. And of course, my sidekicks, which are my cats, rescue cats as well. That's my second trade. But you know, we're going to do the EBIs and talk about that in a detailed video. And I think that booking appointments, again, will be available tomorrow. I'm also hoping we'll be able to take a look at the new funding levels for this summer to help additional people get into more housing. So when they roll out the universal housing voucher, I'm going to be doing a program with that to get as many of you guys in it as possible. When it first rolls out, it's going to be a gold rush because it's going to allow a lot of you to get housing very quickly, and we won't need to deal with emergency housing choice vouchers anymore. We'll be able to apply for that and get you guys moving. A lot of you guys in Jersey, New York, and California, you guys got to get you able to move, okay? If you're in LA, San Francisco, the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and all that, got to get you to move, man. You guys are living in broom closets. You're paying too much for those broom closets, and it's especially hard to get you guys housing. If you're willing to move, man, there's lots of fantastic places. We can port you down to Honolulu. You don't realize, man, Housing Choice Voucher, we can port you in all 50 states. Why would you want to live in a neighborhood with gunshots and prostitutes when we could port you to some of the nicest cities in the country? Why even go through that, you know? I mean, in 45 days, I can port you, your family, your children, and your elderly and send you somewhere to have a better life. There's just no reason for you guys to continue to allow the housing authority. So let's dig into that. That old housing authority. You know, you ever heard the terms project-based housing? You know, all this stuff got started. Let me tell you a quick story about that. So we all know about the 60s and 70s, project-based buildings and all that. So when the housing authority, anytime they own a building, it becomes the project. Literally, that's what it is. When a person, an investor, buys a home or a building and rents it, it becomes, you know, it becomes just regular low-income housing. When the housing authority owns it, it then becomes project-based housing. And you know how badly they run those things, correct? And then the second thing is, you'd never want to both be a recipient of the voucher from those nutcases and then live in the property because the rate of eviction is going to be high. They're going to have ridiculous rules. And of course, you've got Sally in Unit A turning tricks. You got Bob in B2 who's, you know, smoking the crack pipe, and then it goes on and on and on. That's what you're looking for. Anytime they offer you project-based housing where the housing authority owns it, run like hell. Tell them, no, thank you, I'm good. Look, I'll wait another 5 years. You don't want to do that, okay? So we're hoping to pursue universal housing vouchers, the EHVs, which is going to be the emergency housing vouchers. We're going to be able to get to the COC housing, and we're also going to be pursuing that through Section 8 housing, through the housing authority. And I'm going to take a few comments real quick. Or Gail's Resources says, "We're giving up." And then Christian Hayes says, "Oh, well, I'm ready." I don't blame you, Mr. Hayes. Oh, Kristen, I'm sorry, I can't see the picture, so I don't know if it's male or female. So we'll just say Mr. and Mrs. Haynes. Sonia, we're so glad you showed up. You know, I think you missed a few of our live videos. So, hey, you know what, guys? If you're new to this channel, a lot of the people commenting in the channel have been members of mine for years, okay? I don't ever pay for fake views, fake likes, and garbage like that. That's part of the reason why most of my videos only have a modest number of views. I don't actually have to. Look, I'm never going to be a Hollywood star being a Section 8 consultant, okay? Who the hell wants to grow up and say, hey, Mom, I would like to be a Section 8 consultant. I'd like to pick the one job where I know nobody can afford to pay me. I was telling my full stack developer that today. I said I did pick a doozy because I'll never be able to expand it into something where I can go live in a mansion, because I'll always have to make my services available. And that is the point, helping the elderly, helping women and children that are in the woods and under the bridge and dying in shelters. That's what matters. It's not about consulting fees. I could think of thousands of people that I've dragged out of woods, I've helped get out of addiction, that gave them a second chance. That's what it's about. It's about taking your last breath when you move on and knowing that you can unequivocally leave this world and know that you've done the best you can. That's what it's really about. If you want to get rich and sell programs and books and bullshit and call yourself a consultant, then go ahead. Be my guest. So anyways, hey, Matt, I see that you're 26. You're living in Denver. It's you and your little family, and y'all are living, income's not enough to figure out what to do. Well, Matt, so a lot of people's income are low. So that is a starting point. We have to figure out whether or not you're extremely low income. Two, we need to figure out whether or not we can get you and your family to meet some criteria like issues with domestic violence. We need to look at your ages, disabilities, physical aspects. There's a lot of ways. And like I've been telling everybody for a long time on all of my channels and videos, if you're going to play the game to get a voucher, play the game very well, play it to win, my friend. So I know what needs to be said and done. Make no mistake, we can't always be honest. We can't always be Christian. We can't always be ethical and all that. Sometimes you have to bend the truth. Sometimes if you don't meet the criteria, then like I told you, you're just going to have to figure out a way to make it happen. I'd never advise anybody to break the law, but I'm only suggesting things in the same way that people that make our laws, right? What do you think? Do you think all our lawmakers go to church on Sunday? Do you think they write all these laws and things because they're good people? I'm only playing the same game they're playing. Okay. So we're, isn't that interesting how that works out? I'm just playing the same ridiculous game they are, except I'm beating the hell out of the system. So anyways, I hope you got some assistance, says Sonia. Okay, I think you're talking to somebody else. All of it is, yeah, absolutely, man. It's rigged. Come on, man. Everybody knows this game is rigged. I mean, it's so bad. It's like showing up for a lottery and you're never going to win. You got a better chance at winning the lottery than you do sometimes you get vouchers on your own. But make no mistake, I'm not telling you with my consultant services it's like the lottery. Look, I play to win. If I can't do my job, then I need to delete my channel. Go ahead and just demonetize the channel, get rid of the website, and just, hey, go be a party clown. If you can't do what I can do, if you can't prove emphatically you can get people vouchers, if you can't post it on your channel and show people that you can do it, then they'll come around YouTube and on the internet saying you can't. That's the difference between me and a lot of people, man. I prove what I do. I back my shit by 100% of what I do. Hundreds and thousands of people tell you that. It's easy for me to back my case. It's enough for housing authorities to hire me. Some of them pay consultant fees and put me on speakerphone. Some have even asked me to talk to them so they can figure out a way to help elude what I'm doing. Imagine that. But they'd like me to consult so they could figure out how they can better hide the information from me. Like these housing authorities and their little legal departments, which are a joke. So there's lots of cool and interesting things that go along with my job. But, going back, I guess, again, to emergency vouchers, it really is a mythical unicorn, but I think it's going to be possible temporarily. And the minute this rolls out, you guys really should reach out. We need to get this done for as many of y'all as we can. Not every case, like I said, I don't charge everybody. There's lots of cases. I had a woman in her 90s in a homeless shelter. Do you think I'm going to sit there and let that woman sit up in there and rot to death because she doesn't have $10 in her name? Do you think I'm going to let a mother with a newborn, sit in a car and burn up just because I need $45? You're out your mind. I wouldn't dare do that. Do you think that I've got a housewife that's been beaten within an inch of her life sitting in the ER? Do you think I'm going to charge her $90 an hour to consult with me? No, I don't do shit like that. What I do is I help people. Sometimes they can pay, sometimes they can't. I mean, even I have morals. So just for you guys to know, I'm out there. But there are some of you that are clever. They will try to tell me a long story when it's not true. But, that's part of being on the party line. Some people are honest, some are not. So yeah, you have to have a heart in what you do, and you also need to be especially good at what you do if you want to help people that get Section 8, deal with housing choice vouchers. You need to be able to read the laws, understand the regulations, and all those different things that go along with that. So let me talk to you guys about continuum of care, coordinated entry, and COC. So most of you don't realize this, but HUD, which is administers all federal funds, sends that money down the hill, and every state receives it, and then they administer that to the county, and the county owns the housing authority in most cases. The HUD also issues money down to nonprofits. So nonprofits receive money, and then they create their own version of a voucher. It works almost the same way that a housing choice voucher works. There's just a little bit more intrusiveness and more rules, but they can issue you permanent supportive housing, which is PSH. They can issue you RRH, which is rapid rehousing, and both of them are pretty decent deal. They pay you rent, they can pay utilities, deposits, all kinds of things. And the amazing thing about COC is they can get it done in 30 days. So about 30 to 35 days from the point of application, they can usually get your key to the door. That's provided you can pass their assessment. Most of their manuals are around 50 to 80 pages, and let's just say it's like going down to the arcade. I play to win. So those tests are easily defeated if you have the right criteria. If you don't have them, then maybe you'll figure out what you need to do. So that's real talk, like some of my friends like to say. Oh, Mr. Haynes, well, you know what? You read my mind, my man. See, you said that. So, also, next week we're going to be doing. I'm doing some blogs. Now, I was talking to you about that a while back. Everybody, blogs are blogs. You write about things. A lot of it's just fluffy like eggs, and nobody wants to hear that garbage. I'm actually. It's going to be a blog on my channel, but it's not about fluffy stuff. I don't hire people in other countries to write a bunch of garbage. I'm going to write some of the stuff out step by step to literally walk you through. I mean, ABC, academically be able to go out and know precisely what you need to do, because I've got a lot of you guys are DIY. I understand you want to keep your money, keep your purse tight. You don't want to spend the cash and get that. I respect people that want to get out there and do it on their own. That's why I've never made it a burden for you guys that are DIY, want to do it yourself. I wouldn't publish all these videos and tell you how to do everything if I didn't think you could do it. So again, it's not a money game for me. So I'm going to be doing blogs, and they're going to be highly detailed, somewhere around 1,500 to 3,000 words per. And I'm going to walk you through a lot of these incremental steps to deal with housing authorities. But speaking of that, let's talk about cleverness. Most of you, we've talked about being rigged and dealing with bad attitudes and everything. But I'd like to tell you another thing you're going to encounter when you deal with housing authorities and COC employees on a very typical basis. And I also want to talk a little bit about the assessment and applications and some of the things you might encounter. Most of you don't see this coming. It's like you're like a deer in the road at night. You don't see what's happening until the car hits you. Housing authorities tend to make applications in a real interesting way. They play on you emotionally by the way they develop their questions. And some questions in there may seem like they're insignificant, and so they'll cleverly create that question in such a way that makes you ashamed to want to answer it. Or they will put the question in such a way that would make you think, okay, well, I don't really meet with that. That's not really for me. So it's one of those really tricky questions. Oh, that doesn't sound like me. The questions that are most hard to answer or understand are the ones that are trying intentionally to get you to not check off, to not answer. Why? Because those are the types of questions that can send you freaking reeling to the top of a waiting list. They'll often revolve around being homeless, drug addiction. Who wants to talk about that? But did you know it can bump your score 20%? You know it can jack you up part of that list. So you have to watch that. They're very clever in how they do it. Now, all the questions that are straightforward and easy to answer, those are the ones that are worthless, completely worthless. So mostly with housing authority applications, there's about 7 questions built in there that can do a huge amount of damage in getting you to the top of the list, and the rest of that stuff is complete garbage. It seems like it's just there to get in the way, really. Another thing I want to tell you is, look, if you're going to deal with housing authority employees and also COC and continuing care employees, they have many clever techniques they use to get rid of you guys and thin the herd. It's like culling a herd of cattle. When you deal with either one of these organizations, they often use front-level workers. These are people that are paid next to nothing. They often have attitudes. They're condescending. They will purposely deflect your questions, and they will even try to convolute the conversation, and some of them will trick you in a very deceptive way. Well, you know what? Just call back once a month. What they're saying to you is, I haven't done anything. I've not even entered your name and number into the system. Thus, every time you call each month to find something out to see where you are, they won't say anything. They'll just say call back. The reason is they hold you at bay. As long as they never actually put your name in the computer, you don't technically exist. The whole time you're going through that game for months and months and months, you think you're actually in the system. No, you're not. They've just outmaneuvered you mentally. Another thing I've been seeing a lot of is disqualifying factors. They love to play that game as well. There are a lot of questions that employees will ask you that you think, okay, well, they must really care about me. They're asking about my family, whether I have a place to go. My friend, they're not asking you those questions because they give a shit about your life, okay? The reason they're asking you, they're probing you is what they're doing. And you don't even see that one coming to you. They probe you verbally with questions to determine if there's any way they can kick your ass out of that list or prevent you from entering and getting a voucher or getting in CSU housing. So they may say, well, don't you have any family? Don't you have an aunt? And they say it in a very concerning way. But the reality is the minute you say that, they say, oh, well, you know what? That's too bad. You need to call Auntie May and go live on her couch. You're disqualified. Goodbye. Hang up. Ching. And then you're done. And so they do many things like that. And I have to warn you guys, you're going to have to learn to be able to counter those answers. That's the reason I consult you guys. You call 211. Oh, can I get some emergency assistance? Well, let me tell you something. A lot of those people probably, they just hired from under the bridge as well. And a lot of them are crazy. They barely know how to use a keyboard at 211. I'm not saying every person that works at 211 is an idiot, but most of them are. And they type in some bullshit on the computer and they look up some outdated information. And so it serves a mental purpose. If they can make this as painful and as dragged out and as full as much bullshit as possible, they'll get you to give up. That is ultimately the point, isn't it? How do we get 10,000 people and reduce that list to 5? We'll put the angriest, nastiest person on the phone line. That way, we'll be able to take that 30% of people that have a personality that can't handle rejection, and we'll be able to get rid of them instantly by putting Sally on the phone. Then we'll put Bob on Tuesday because Bob has a way of asking conjecturous questions and then disqualify me. He's an expert at being clever. If you don't think this goes, now I'm not saying like it's a conspiracy, okay? Don't get me wrong. But if you don't think they're not doing this stuff, I mean, it's like they sit around that office and dream this shit up, to do it. And I've heard it play out thousands of times. I've actually with some clients, they've hit a hard roadblocks with employees. I actually had to get on a three-way with them and remain quiet to hear the clever games being played out. So I advised the client, I said, I want you to call under a different name and from a different phone each day. We'll do it 3 times. Once I figure out what this guy's problem is and how he's disqualified, we'll take you in as who you really are. And I beat it. And you know what? I beat the guy. And so when I finally defeated him, he begrudgingly said under his breath, well, I guess we have to give you an assessment, as if that he was angry that he actually had to actually do his fucking job and earn his check. He was angry that somebody managed to actually be able to apply for a voucher that day, probably that month, who knows? So his whole job is running interference. Careful, my friends. Be careful when you deal with these people. It is a clever and a sophisticated game. And that's why I have to keep preaching that, if you're going to play the game, you better hire somebody that can damn well win it. I play it better than the people that created it. Now, let me give you some good news. We've been sitting here talking a lot of stuff. Not every housing authority acts this way. There are plenty of housing authorities that have nothing but professionalism. One good indicator is when they have beautiful websites. They care about what they're doing. They're hiring ethically. They care about people in your story. You're lucky if you have you're in a city in a county like that. If you're somewhere like LA or New York, you should be prepared to go to hell and back to do what you need to do. But that's part of being almost like a crystal ball reader. I'm able to show you not only what to do and how to answer, but for those of you that have nervous fits, I'm able to show you exactly how it's going to play out a month ahead of time. So you actually see the playbook before you go and do it. So instead of sitting there with sleepless nights and worrying about how this is all going to play out, how it's going to happen, I'm able to tell you simply because I've repeated the process thousands of times. So I tell you, hey, you know what? When you have the assessment, she's going to say A, B, and C. This is how you should answer A, B, and C. But hey, don't worry. They're not going to tell you whether or not you get a voucher today. Here's what's going to happen in about 7 days, possibly 9. They're going to call you back. So I can do play by play. I'm really that good at it. I know exactly how they think and how they do it. And I also understand the timelines and federal guidelines in which they have to operate it. It's kind of like a closed fence that they're operating inside of. So I know what they have to do, and I know there are deadlines for it. And in most cases, if the government says you've got 30 days to do something, they'll drag their ass to the stroke of midnight until Cinderella's pumpkin turns back to a shitty shoe. You see what I'm saying? So they will run the clock if they can. And that's mostly because they're overloaded with cases. Let's take some comments, because I feel like I'm doing more entertaining than I am talking about vouchers. So, lucky Matt, I applied for a few subsidized apartments directly, but no housing authority staff. Well, that's the thing about it. You never know if you're applying at a subsidized house. Let me tell you another clever game that's being played out around this country. A lot of you guys see the words low income and affordable all over Google. We're, they'll say we're blue diamond apartments, we're low income. Really, they're not. They have no connection to HUD. They have no connection to the housing authority. They have no federal tax credits. They're just simply, they've done what they intended to do. They tricked you. They tricked you because they used the magic words that you're used to mentally hearing. And that they are affordable housing, they're low income, and they're not violating law by using those words. What you don't realize is they're going to put you on a waiting list, and here's where your jaw is going to drop. You're going to show up one day when they tell you, congratulations, you won that lottery. By the way, the lottery is going to be a little ball in their office. They're going to spin bingo tiles, because this is not going to be a real housing authority lottery. It's going to be the owners rolling it around, and they're going to roll it till they find a 900 credit score with somebody who's got the best paying job of the century. They're going to wait and roll that sucker till they get the perfect client, okay? So you see the problem with fake properties pretending to have a connection to the housing authority and the federal government is they can invent whatever little bullshit lotteries they like, run their own wheel, and then here's why I said your jaw will drop. You wait a year on this waiting list, and they probably couldn't find a higher credit score to move in there, so they call you. Hey, Bob, congratulations, you won the lottery. And you get there, and you got your voucher in hand. Oh, well, the rent's $900. We'll need that in cash or check. And then you're angry, aren't you? You're ready to ride down to the gas station and get a gallon of gas and light it up. I've seen that play out many times. Okay, folks, you have to absolutely make sure that you're looking for these properties either through a subcontractor or a website that's authorized by HUD, like Go, Section 8, Affordable Housing Online. A lot of these websites are run by people in China and Russia, and their interest is to get you to click in the website, look at the ads so they can make nickels and pennies. And then most of the properties in there are just garbage. And the ones that are real, what they're doing is they're linking to real complexes that aren't even affordable housing. They're not even low-income housing. So you're being cleverly deceived by the names. So you need to go and get your list directly from HUD, me, or the housing authority. And let me tell you something. If you're accepting property lists from the housing authority, they're going to send you to the worst properties. Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. The housing authority, any landlord that's stupid enough to put his building on the actual Section 8 website's an idiot. That's a horrible sign. I would never take anybody that was recommended by the housing authority, and neither would any sane landlord. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. Oh, that's a mouthful, isn't it? When you really think about it, there's a whole lot to all of this. But, the thing is, I don't want to discourage anybody. I want all of y'all to be comfortable and get housing. And it's not always going to be complicated, but I like to show you the whole playbook, at least part of it. That way, when you encounter some of these things, a light bulb will go up in your head, and you won't make those mistakes because you've heard me talk about it. You go in armed, you go in prepared. Look, guys, if you're suffering from mental deficiencies, you have mental problems, or you have learning disabilities, get rest, go on your best prepared day. Never allow these employees to engage you verbally when you become upset or you act out. Go on your very best day when you're rested. That way you're able to counter every move that they make on you. And it is a clever cat and mouse game. Sometimes it's straightforward, sometimes it's not. The bigger the city, the closer you get to downtown, the shittier the game gets, Let's take a few questions. I'm on so many waiting lists, but a few have declined because it is in a dangerous neighborhood. Hey, I don't blame you. It's sometimes as a client, as a tenant that's seeking housing, the best way also to play the game is play bingo with the housing authorities. I often recommend getting in your car, get a full tank of gas, and hit every single housing authority in every county. So every county has a housing authority. drive all around the city of LA, hit all 9 counties, apply all in the same day, and the first person that says bingo and calls your phone, that's where you're going to move. Sometimes you have to play the game that way. And, I actually deployed that tactic. And I play bingo with them by compelling them under federal law to give me their waiting list numbers. That's how I figure out who's got the shortest list. And if it's a short list, is the list only for seniors? And once I figure out it's a short list and just for seniors, guess what I do? All my seniors I've been talking to, hey, man, we got a hot spot. I'm sending you down there. Let's go get this done. So there's lots of techniques that we can use to manipulate back people that manipulate the system. It really does play out that way sometimes. Hey, Jazzy, I'm glad you joined us, girl. Let's see. Jazz says, I am waiting to get an approved for an apartment in Hawaii. Now, you go down to that Hawaii. You guys, any of y'all going to want to, I already ported a few people down there. You get out there, you better send me some photos of the beach. You understand? Because, God, it's gorgeous weather. It's beautiful sand. And I'm not a Hawaii man, but I would definitely move to Seattle, Washington. I want to go live up in the mountains. I like the rain and I like the natural beauty. But for those of you who want to do, that, or you want to go to Puerto Rico, money goes a long ways in Puerto Rico. It's a tropical island. It's not. We probably made those people look pretty bad in Puerto Rico. I think we should have treated those people a little bit more dignity down there, but we didn't. And so now everybody's under the impression that, the poor Puerto Rico is just some terrible, scraped island because of a hurricane. It's not true, man. If you ever go down to Puerto Rico, it's a beautiful place, and the people there have so much more damn respect and intelligence than a lot of the people I deal with in the U.S. That's the thing. When I travel, people have so much more respect in other nations than we have here. I mean, you go down to Puerto Rico, people are friendly, they're nice. I mean, every city, every area has its problem, but they just treat you a whole lot better than you get treated here. So, Tony, how's it going? Having a voucher, just had some questions. Hey, Tony, by the way, I've got a pinned up comment with the website and my email. If you got some questions you want to shoot to me, go send them over tonight. I'll get to those as quickly as I can. Who else we got there? Jazzy's giving me some hearts. Gail's Resources, $45 is a steal for your time. I'm not intending on ever going past $45, guys, for this stuff. And in fact, I still give away half the consults because I refuse to charge the elderly. I refuse to charge women that have been beaten within an inch of their life. I won't ever do that. There's a lot of situations I refuse to charge people because I'm in this obviously to help. And I care what happens. If you're out there living in the woods with your children, it's personal to me. I take that super personal what happens to you. I really do care. Some cases I was ready to get on take a flight down there just to help a mother. In one case, I was going to fly down to Chicago to help get a senior out of a shelter, been abandoned by the family. We abandoned our elderly too much. So no, I take these cases very personally. Some of them rack me emotionally. Some nights I can't sleep. I had a lady I spoke to today. She suffers from many issues, and she started crying on the phone. I often get clients that are absolutely broken into pieces. My job is as much to help you get housing as it is sometimes to help stabilize you mentally. Some people have had enough. Life's been hard. And I'm your last hope. In a lot of cases, I am the last hope for some people. They're fixing to lose everything. So I take this responsibility very seriously. What happens to you guys, and I often pursue it to its very end. So just so you know. Let's take a look at some more comments. Hi there. Will you be on the phone with you the next week, Wednesday? Looking forward to speaking with you. Ms. Landrew, good to see you again. I'm looking forward to speaking back with you again. She's been a good client of mine. I believe Ms. Landrew's daughter, I may be wrong. I have a lot of clients. I believe I was also dealing with her daughter. Let's see. There should be a law. Of course, there should be laws. There should be a law that if you're a human, you earn the same rights and privileges as any other human on earth, and you should have the same entitlements. Look, not everybody's born with 2 eyes, 2 arms, and 2 legs. Not everybody's born with 180 IQ. Not everybody is born from a family that doesn't have drinking and drug problems. And so some people's lives will always be miserable from the day that they're born. And you have to have compassion and understand that some people will never be designed to do much in your life. But it doesn't mean that they don't deserve a home. We are far too hard on people, And you're going to, besides that, when you get older, really old, you're going to start regretting those decisions and being so damn judgmental. I have to teach a lot of y'all to quit doing that. I judge people too. I had to get away from that because such a precious amount of time on this earth to be judging whether or not somebody would actually deserve to have a house. Who the hell gave you the right to determine whether or not somebody's good or good and not good enough to get housing? Just because you have a job and you pay taxes, that does not give you the privilege to think you are a better human than somebody else. It just means that you carry some social responsibility, and you should think whoever's up in that good sky there, you should thank them that they equipped you with 2 hands, 2 legs, some eyes, and a good enough IQ to get through school. Not everybody's been privileged with that. So I believe that housing, I think as a human, we all need housing. It's not about opportunity. It's not about privilege. It's just that we, as a human, you got to have it. It's bad weather. That goes, man. I get some people, man, that are extremists. They don't like it. They think I'm one of these futurists or liberals or whatever. I don't really give a shit what they think. But I still think that we have to solve housing problems. How else are we going to get people to work a job and pay? You think the lady that's living with 1 shoe on her foot and no shower, you think people are going to hire her to work? No, she's going to have a home and get her shit together. Then she can move on with her life. I'm real good about dragging people from under bridges and out of shelters and helping them move on with that journey in their life. And a lot of them going on to be productive citizens. So providing the housing is the first stable point for me and a lot of the clients I deal with. And it's so, so important. Let's take some comments here. Hi, I'm from New Jersey. Vouchers for domestic violence or relocated. So we talk about VAWA. So that's domestic violence, domestic violence against women. So there's not a specific type of housing. It's if you qualify for housing choice voucher because of DV and that subject, then we can often reach out through COC and the Housing Authority and get you to special preferences for that. And to be frank with you, DV does carry some of the highest number of points on an algorithm to rank you higher, actually. It's just the way that it's worked out. You get a lot of priority for domestic issues, okay? It doesn't matter if you're straight. It does not matter if you're gay. It does not matter what you are. If you're in a relationship with another human being, and you have those problems, then that's it. But it can't be your friends and family and neighbors, okay? That's not a relationship. That's not intimate. But if you're experiencing if somebody's treating you bad mentally, physically, if they're stalking and other issues related to that, or they're implying threats, if you don't do this, I will put you out of my home, that again is a domestic issue. And we can address that through VAWA funding, which then can give you a housing choice voucher from that funding. Okay, a lot of you guys think that VAWA is actually a form of housing. It is not. It's a funding level. Let's take a look. And let me tell you something. About 15% of my clients are going through it. Some of them currently. Some cases are very exceptionally bad. So bad that I've had to terminate the call early to go calm down mentally because it was so bad that it's almost like trauma. I couldn't sleep. It affects you severely mentally. I hear a lot of cases, man, and some of them just, man, I've even considered counseling here in some of those. But the thing is, what I can do is help you fix that, to get away from those situations, port you across the country, and get you away from the person that is offending you. Okay, I take those cases very seriously because I grew up with it in my own household as a child. We had a lot of that going on in the house. I'm not going to name who they were or whether they were married to our family or whatever, but we experienced that almost religiously every weekend. And it does play a big part of why I have such a soft heart for, the seniors, elderly children, pets, or anybody that's been attacked or abused. So let's go to soft to tone, go back to the housing choice vouchers and emergency vouchers. So we're going to take this very seriously. We're going to make some videos about that. We're going to do some live, and we're going to get straight to the point on that stuff. I'd like to walk you guys through it. Anytime that you're actually so prominent that you want to stay in the county, look, guys, you have to consider all options, okay? It's not going to do you any good to get your way and be on the sidewalk at the same time, okay? And sometimes you're not going to court. They ask you, not only should you tell the truth, but sometimes you have to tell the whole truth. Sometimes I tell you just to tell the truth, but not the whole truth. Sometimes you've got to stop talking, okay? If you have high Christian morals, you have high morals and ethics, well, look, you know what, and you love Jesus, you're going to have to ask Jesus to forgive you later, because we're going to have to change some things on the application. You're going to change your answers. God doesn't want you on the sidewalk. That's the whole thing, guys. Do not let your personal morals get in the way of you about house. It's not, you're not going to be doing anything for God but praying for it. Praying on the sidewalk. I don't want that, okay? He wants you to get help. Do it. Do it. Stop playing high and mighty with yourself. If you can't make it in the county, we don't have vouchers there, then look, let's drive the 10 minutes, get you over the county line. Let's get you over as many county lines as possible and start playing bingo with them, which means we're applying at all of them until we get a hit. It does work. I've done it hundreds of times. It works. Trust me. You just have to let me drive the car a little bit, okay? I'll give you the wheel back, but you have to let me drive it for you. You have to let me teach you what to say, how to do it, and you'll be fine. If you go into this with the attitude that I've got this, I'm going to do it my way. Your way is going to cost you a rubber mat in a homeless shelter, and then 3 days later, to your shock, they're going to put your ass out of there, and they're going to tell you, well, you can reapply for the rubber mat in 30 days. Then what? Then what, my friend? We're in the middle of a pandemic. We have a housing crisis. We got all kinds of things going on. Do not challenge housing authorities and COCs. Don't think you're going to make it like normal days. These aren't normal times. We had 11 million people get evicted. That means that was about 11 million people that used to be middle class. Guess what they are now? They're no longer middle class. They are no class. Okay, they just entered the magic world of being low income. These are the same people that would have popped in my channel a year ago and said, yeah, well, you just deal with drug addicts. Well, guess what? Now they're quietly like rats and roaches and snakes crawling in my channel. Same people a year ago would have sit there and said nasty things about all my low-income people that come to my channel, and now they're the ones begging. You see how the world is full of retribution. They got their ass handed to them. Now they've got no job, no home, and they had to run right back to the same channel that sit there and talk shit to me. But you know what? I'm going to still treat them reasonably. I'm still going to treat them fairly. But I've got to tell you, it is interesting seeing them crawl in. That's the thing. That's why I tell you, quit judging. It can happen to you at any time, man. You and all your stuff can be on the sidewalk. Quit judging people, man. Don't worry about that stuff. So, back to those housing choice vouchers again. Let's take a few comments, see what's going on. Hi, how are you? So Naomi, I believe that's how it's said. How does one go about moving to PR? I have limited mobility and 5 children. Now, I need you to tell me a little bit more what PR means. If anybody knows what PR is, please type it into the live chat. So I don't know if that's a city or if that's a state. I don't recognize PR. I'm sorry. Having 5 children. Now, just so you know, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, having a lot of children was a big factor in how you got ranked. It is no longer the case. However, it does play some factors in how your case will go along, but that alone, having a lot of children, is not going to give you the magic bullet you're looking for. I have a pocket full of magic bullets that'll help us. It's just not going to be the children unless you are recently pregnant and all the children are under 5. Oh, Puerto Rico. Okay, well, hell bells. I just talked about Puerto Rico. So Puerto Rico. So that's interesting. Guys, you should check out the housing authority in Puerto Rico. They are a territory. They're not a state. And so think of it this way. Now, if people over there, if a dollar here is worth, $100 there, if you took a housing choice voucher here that's worth $900, it's probably worth 18 grand out in Puerto Rico. They would gladly accept you on the island. Why? Because your voucher's worth 20 times more to them than it's worth in San Francisco. You see my point? When you take a voucher from a big city where the voucher's worth $3 grand because you have a super expensive place and area you live in, and you take it to a smaller city and state with the housing authorities or where the rents in the area are only $500, of course they want that voucher. They make money off that. You take it to the extreme of Puerto Rico, good God, that's like a gold mine. Yeah, they'll probably have a carpet waiting at the airport for you just to take the damn voucher. So I do realize in Puerto Rico, people are not poor, okay? And it's not, a dollar's not worth 100 there, okay? I'm just saying that it's a little bit lower than we have it here in the U.S. And I'm going to tell you, even if it's 5% lower, that's a huge break. And then you're living on a tropical island, okay? Where the rents are not stupid, crazy high, That's, when's the last time you rented an apartment for $300? You won't even need a voucher in Puerto Rico, to be honest. If you've got a Social Security check for $800 or $900 a month and you move to Puerto Rico, you probably could make it on that fairly reasonably. The cherry on the cake would be probably having the voucher. You take that same voucher to Honolulu, well, things get expensive. It's an island. So thank you, everybody that chimed in on the PR. So Puerto Rico, love it. So I'm going to make some recommendations for you guys that are actually had enough of everything and you live in New York and California. I want you guys to consider the upper West Coast, Washington and Oregon. They're beautiful places, but if you're older, it's probably not going to be for you because I know you guys like the heat. You like the beach? Not the beach. You just like it to be warm. So I'm going to recommend that you come out to Texas. We have Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. We've got at least 4 major cities that rank in the top 10 in the country. It's warm. You can still rent whole houses for $1,200. Brand new 5-bedroom house, 4-bedroom house, $1,000, $1,500. $1,500 in New York would buy you, 10 square feet, and you'd be living in there with the broom and the mop, So if you, Florida is hot and heavy. Seniors have been moving there since the 50s and 60s, and it's getting to a point where the whole state is elderly. Well, my point is, a lot of you guys are trying to get me to send you to some of the most expensive parts of Florida. We have to be reasonable, guys. Look, if they got $10 million mansions in that county in Florida and you're trying to get me to port you there, you wouldn't even be able to afford a snow cone. All right? What good is it going to do me port you into some expensive city and you go to the 7-Eleven down or whatever they call their gas station, and they tell you, well, it's $55 for a gallon of gas, and it'll be $9 for a gallon of milk. Stop with the craziness. Look, go find a mid city in Florida, okay, or come down to Houston where it's warm. If you're young and you're still wanting to see the world and do a lot, I'm going to recommend Washington, Oregon. And for those of you that like a milder life, less crime, less problems, and all that, I'm going to recommend the Midwest for you. Now, I'm going to not recommend certain states, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. California is at the tipping point, okay? So we already know that. It's too many people and too much going on. It's just at the tipping point. I'm happy to mail your butt across in other areas in California that are like the north. I'm not going to recommend New York, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Boston, San Antonio, or Detroit. I'm not going to recommend that. The reason I'm not going to recommend that is the system. First of all, the systems are extremely old and are some of the first in the country. And so you have what they call generational vouchers. That's when somebody received a voucher in the 1960s. And then they play a clever game of, okay, well, I'll just pass the voucher down to my daughter-in-law, which then will hold it hostage for another 10 years. And then she'll pass it down to her children. And so what you have is 50-year-old vouchers. The system doesn't move because everybody's cheating the system. The system cheating is especially bad in New York and New Jersey. They've been playing that game for a long time, and you know what I'm talking about if you have a problem there. You know that, and you also know your friends and your relatives are playing that game with the housing authority. It's called connections, and we all know about the mafia game over there. And I'm not going to talk about that because I don't want to wake up the Italians. So, I'm going to recommend the Midwest. There's lots of great places down there. However, I would not recommend Las Vegas. I know you go. Some of you seem like the warm weather and gambling, but I don't want to see you burn up all your cash down there in Vegas. And look, casinos and hookers is not probably the best life for you because there is 2 extremes to Vegas. There's people having fun, spending money, and then there's people living in destitute out there in Vegas. I'm not going to recommend it. All right. I want y'all guys to stay away from Louisiana. That's my home state. Mississippi, Alabama. I shouldn't have to tell you why. It wouldn't matter if you're black or white. I'm not going to recommend those states. It's simply too poor. It's underfunded, and it really is like going back in a time warp. So I'm not saying anything bad about the states. I grew up in one of them. I grew up in deep Louisiana. People very backwoods, and so are their politics down there. You do not want to get involved in. Let me tell you something. I'll take you down there in Fifth Ward, New Orleans, and show you what a real housing project is, like it used to be in the Bronx. It's not a joke. Okay. So I'm not going to send y'all down there in the dirty South. Sorry. The best I can do for you is maybe Fulton out there in Georgia or Augusta, but we're not going to do the South. We'll do Florida. We'll do Georgia. I'm a little bit apprehensive about North and South Carolina. Again, great states, but it's not great for those of you who are voucher holders. All right. These are not my opinions. This is what happens when I deal with thousands of people that tell me what the hell is really happening down there. Okay. So I don't want y'all to put yourself in jeopardy. There are better places that are operating normally than some of these states. For those of you that like a little bit of solitude, I'm going to recommend the upper Midwest. If you like Montana and all those areas over there, Utah, Boise, flipping gorgeous mountains, everything, if you like smaller communities, if you like 4 seasons when the leaves change colors, especially if you're from down south, it's a big change seeing 4 seasons, because all we have down south is hot and hot as hell. We don't, you can get a suntan on Christmas Day out here. All right, guys. So I've been chattering on, entertaining portion and talking about a lot. Main thing is you guys can always rewind to the beginning of the video if you would actually like to learn anything important. So I like telling stories and help you feel kind of warmed up to what we're talking about. But it certainly is a ride doing this stuff. So let's take some questions. So Miss Magic asking about New Jersey. How do you apply in New Jersey? Okay, well, let me tell you something about New Jersey. Yeah, I can show you how to apply in New Jersey. First of all, that system is absolutely a wild game. Okay, you will need to better be prepared to cheat, steal, and lie, and do whatever you got to do in Jersey. Okay, especially if you're in particular counties. That has been gamed and hustled so badly over there that even I have a hard time with it. So I'm not discouraging you. I'm just saying if we're going to do Jersey, we're going to have to get you to some of the farther out counties, okay? But if you're going to get in the ones I'm thinking about, I'm going to tell you that's generational vouchers, and nobody's getting off of them. But it can be done, and roughly 10% of all my clients are from Jersey. The bigger chunk is going to be New York and California, nearly 50% of my clients, because that's where the problems are. What about Austin, Texas? Well, Austin, Texas, I'll burn you through that like a streak of lightning. There's nothing to that. To me, that's child's play. We won't have a hard time at Austin at all, okay? Now, you guys want to come down to Texas and our big cities, Dallas and Houston, all that, where you got 8-9 million people, we don't have the same convoluted problems as California and New York and the upper East Coast. So, yeah, Texas, nowhere out there's going to be a big problem. So you can hit me up with that anytime. Denver's easy. Denver's no problem. They don't even register on my the level of difficulty from 1 to 100 for Denver. I'm going to put it -1. We'll easily burn you through that. What about Virginia? Virginia is what I call it's a midliner. I'm going to say the difficulty level of getting through them is about 40-50%, and that's pretty low, pretty decent. It depends. Also, are we talking West Virginia? And what part of Virginia? That's the main thing. We out of moonshine territory. We're going to be in a major city. That's what's going to make a difference. So please, guys, when you mention the state, make sure you mention the county. Central California, we have a halfway chance there. The big problem we have is that with El Centro is not enough housing. So what's interesting is you get vouchers quickly and then have nowhere to use them. And now that's a terrible problem to have, right? So one that says in the north. So the north I think will be okay, but I'm going to need you to stay fairly close to the big metropolitan areas. Look, if you go in small counties that are doing 5, 8, 10, or 20, 30,000 people, the housing authority is literally going to be a little bitty house with about 6 people running in the housing authority, okay? So if you're not in the church knitting group, you're not going to get a voucher, okay? That's how shit rolls in small counties. If you're not part of the church, the community board, the PTA, I can tell you when the vouchers are going. They're going to Sally and all her friends at the barbecue on Sunday. They're talking how they're getting vouchers. You mere mortals that are going down to these small counties, I'm afraid you're not part of church service. You didn't make PTA. You're not getting shit. All right. Let's just be honest with ourselves. If you don't think that there's people working in little housing authorities that are literally a house, if you don't think they don't hand that stuff out to their friends and family, you're out your mind. They might allocate one honestly, but the rest are going to the extended family. And that's just how that game's been played for a long time, and nobody's bothered to stop them. And I've been getting on the ass of these small housing authorities that seem to operate like it's the old days. When I catch them doing stuff like that, I usually file reports with the Department of Housing and then light their ass up best I can, because that kind of shadiness needs to stop. And it does happen a lot in these small rural counties. But yeah. So it is, and so I didn't mean that in an entertaining way. It doesn't mean that every small county and housing authority operates that way. There's plenty of small counties that do it right, but I've definitely seen some crazy stuff. And I can, remarkably, a lot of that's come out of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, where it's all families. Families been living in the same old neighborhood and same county. They own half the stores there, and they own the housing authority. How do you think that's going to work out for you? So we have to watch that. I mean, again, that's part of the South. And sometimes politics and religion do play a big deal. And that doesn't matter if you're already religious. If you're not part of that, if it's not part of the game that they're doing, then it doesn't matter. So it's all interesting. New Mexico is not a problem, but I should tell you right now, you need to avoid the big cities in New Mexico. Let me tell you something about that, man. The housing authority over there is probably one of the most pain in the ass places to deal with in New Mexico, but it depends on the city, okay? If it's not the city that I'm thinking of, New Mexico on a scale of 1 to 100, I would put it at 30. So let's check the time now. I've been rattling on for nearly an hour. How much time we got? Got an hour and 9 minutes, guys. So we're going to wrap this up in approximately 10 minutes, guys, because my voice is tiring and I'm doing more entertaining than I am answering questions. So, guys, if we got questions, y'all need to start pumping them out. I wouldn't recommend Virginia. I live there here and I'm working on leaving. Oh, yeah, Jazzy, you're down there in Virginia. Yeah. Everybody has different reasons why they want to move around and get out. So, if like I tell people, whether you're from Jersey or you're a New Yorker or whatever, you can be a New Yorker anywhere. I used to live in Louisiana. Look, I can be a Cajun. I can boil crawfish anywhere. I can be Cajun anywhere. I don't have to go live out there in that mess. That's why I left when I was a kid. If I wanted to sit there and be poor like the rest of them Cajun folks, I would have sure as hell stayed there. I live in Houston, okay? I chose a different path. Look, guys, there's better places to go, okay? Take your children, take your elderly, and do yourself a favor. Have a better life for y'all, okay? Sometimes that big city living, you're never going to get back on your feet with that. Once, there's a point of no return, and I deal with that a lot with that in homelessness. Once you reach the street, on average, it takes a person 5 or 6 years to recover financially enough, mentally enough to be able to come out of that. Some people never make it out. Some of you guys are on the teetering line of this stuff, okay? And so once you reach a certain point, it's very difficult to return from it. So I'm telling you guys, stop trying to force yourself to live in specific places when you know the housing authority has a closed waiting list. They're not going to issue a voucher for another 50 years. Stop with the nonsense. Let's just go to the next county. You got to wait it out. If you want to go back home, then finish a lease in the next county over, which will do 12 months, and I'll port you back into that miserable city if that's what you want. But don't let that be the reason you have to go live in a homeless shelter. I'm dealing with a lot of stubborn people, especially my seniors. I love them. They love to move. They like to get around and move around. My seniors tend to be the more movers and shakers than my young ones. It's you young folks that want to do the family ties. What good does it do to be part of family barbecue if your life is upside down and you and your children are living in the car? What good does that do? Get the hell out the city if you can't afford it, okay? Fair rental price. One of the consequences of living in a society where we're driven by fair market, when we say fair market, where we're driven to be entrepreneurs, means we can put rents at whatever we want. However, we are leveling that play field currently with the new funding levels coming up for the universal housing choice vouchers. Number two, Mr. Biden has issued nearly $500 billion for new housing. I'm sure about half that money will be spent on chandeliers and new computers and computer chairs and other luxury items for the housing authority employees. Maybe they'll even order the best hors d'oeuvres and sandwiches before they actually earn their check. I see a lot of that crazy shit going on, spending money on operational costs. Hey, man, when we do the EHV, when we read that 59-page manual for emergency housing voucher I talked about at the beginning of the video, there's an allocation that literally lets them blow 16% of the money. See, we're already off to a shitty start with that. So we're going to have a battle getting you those emergency vouchers, but the other battle is they've already written it in there. They can use the money for just whatever, for 16%. That's a lot of money to flush down the toilet. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of money to flush straight down the toilet. And think about how many people use that voucher. And then are we leaving the people that are administering the rules of this I keep forgetting the name, EHV program, emergency housing voucher? Who's administering that? Is it the lady that makes $6 an hour that has an attitude? I wonder, will she be issuing those vouchers to friends and family, or does anybody else going to get one? So I'm going to have to look carefully at their operations manual, and then we'll have to figure out how well they're going to try to hide this. And I want to tell you something, guys. Look, this has been out for 2 days. They're not even publishing these on national news. You know what that tells me? They don't want this to be released. They don't want people to know this is out there. So we're off to a terrible start. they normally would publish something like that. So they really are trying to keep Emergency Housing Choice Voucher 2021 pretty much a secret on the internet, right? Seems pretty shady to me. Well, anyways, what we're going to do is publish it all over YouTube and Google, and then we're going to try to set the record straight, but I don't want to create a gold rush for it. Let's see, Miss Oates, how long does Housing Choice Voucher last? It will last a lifetime, provided you don't go work for Elton Musk and earn $100,000 a year. As long as you meet the income requirements and your life pretty much remains unchanged, you may have that voucher till you pass away. And let's see, Matt says, thank you for your hard work. Have a great night. Hey, Matt, we've enjoyed having you. I wish you guys, I could hear your voices in these comments in the live chat. It would mean a lot to hear you guys. But look, I really have enjoyed it, but my voice is starting to fail me at an hour and 15 minutes. And, like I said, I've enjoyed talking to all of you. I do mix a little bit of entertainment and personality with all this. If you want to get the meat and potatoes, guys, look, rewind the video. I'm not going to force you to sit through and listen to me talk like a babbling fool for a whole hour. I think most of what you're looking for is going to be probably the first 20 minutes. If you want to reach out to me, I've got an email address and all in the pinned to the top comment in the live section. And you can always visit my website. Look, the booking section for you to book an appointment through my website, it won't be available till later tonight, probably midnight Texas time, Central Standard, or around 1 in the morning in New York, or if you're in California, about 10 p.m. tonight. And then at that point, you'll be able to book appointments if that's what you want to do. By the way, also, guys, Google, the Google gods have favored me. I posted that they took our website, section8consulting.com, and they shot us up to the second page. We should be the #1 consulting agency and anything Section 8 pretty much in about a month or two. I'm hoping a few weeks. So we're showing our website showing a lot of authority. And once we make the first page of Google, we will enter a new arena of clients. That means that I'm going to be able to help people that aren't smart enough to know to look on YouTube. And that's a good thing. I'm hoping to reach as many people as possible. I'm also reaching my upper limits of what I can do for y'all because I am one man. I've automated as much of this process as I can, but there's only so many hours in a day in which I can speak. And I'm still looking into getting an assistant and other people. I have about 6 people who work for me now, but they don't handle this part. It's a lot to know, a lot to learn, a lot to talk, but I'm going to get there. I've interviewed one lady about an assistant work. We're just not ready for her yet. But yeah, when this thing does hit the first page of Google, it's going to cause me some problems because there's going to be more people requesting consults than probably there are days in a week, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. So I guess I've created my own dilemma. But I'll tell you what, man, I will go down. I'll go down fighting for as long as I can to help as many as I can. Because in the end, it wouldn't matter if I charge anybody or not. It's really just talking with people a month later, a couple of months later, and hearing them get those housing choice vouchers. That I actually didn't just give them a voucher. I changed their life. I helped them change their life. I helped change the course of what happens to their children. In some cases, I helped some of them save their elderly from a horrific situation, home shelter. So that's the biggest pain I'll ever get. The pocket change is the console. What happens with your lives is what really matters to me. It's the biggest impact. It's the biggest high you'll ever get, is knowing that you have been able to really just change fundamentally what may happen to that person in their life. Okay, look, it's been fun, guys. We're out, so we will talk again. I typically do these type of videos around 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, Texas, and occasionally I might pop in for a night session. You just have to subscribe to the channel, and it'll give you a notification or an email and let you know I'm online. So for now, I wish you all goodbye. And tomorrow I'm going to be publishing a video, and when I'm publishing tomorrow, you really don't want to see that one because I'm fixing to say and do some things for one of their manuals that's going to it would be a lot like me kicking a hornet's nest. They're going to be really angry that I'm publishing it, but oh well. They knew if they were going to play the game, that eventually somebody would get their hands on the rule book. So that was me that did it. All right, y'all. Good night.